Hello everyone. My name is Yegor Gilyov, and I am the UX director at Wrike. What is Wrike? Wrike is the most versatile work management platform. We started in 2006, and since then became one of the leading vendors of tools for collaborative work management. More than 20,000 companies across 140 countries depend on Wrike to organize their work. For example, such companies as Google, Airbnb, Tiffany, Hootsuite, SurveyMonkey, and Ogilvy. We have more than 1,000 employees around the world, and our main offices are located in San Jose, in California, in St. Petersburg, and in Prague. I lead the product design department. There are 16 product designers so far, and we grow continuously. In this talk, I'd like to share our journey towards the new navigation experience. That's a kind of case study. But before that, I have to explain what our product consists of. I mean, not the technical architecture, but the conceptual model. First of all, we have something we call the work graph. There are folders, projects, tasks, and subtasks. It looks like a hierarchy, but actually a work item can have more than one parent item, so it's a graph. In every project or folder, one can overview the work using any of the so-called views: list, table, Gantt chart, board, files, and second, we have so-called applications: dashboards, reports, calendar, and workload. These applications allow users to create and configure standalone views built upon data from the work graph. For example, one can create a dashboard collecting tasks from different projects by particular criteria. These are so-called work tools. And last, we have personal applications: Inbox, My To Do, Timesheets, Stream. We call them personal since they pivot data around the current user. That's the conceptual model of Wrike in a nutshell. There are a lot of nuances, but for the sake of your time, let's proceed. How did we understand that it was time to update the navigation experience? We had a lot of feedback, but it was hard to connect to a particular feature or a specific user scenario. This feedback was related to the overall experience. To understand how to deal with this feedback, we made a heuristic evaluation, and we found many problems with our navigation. I'll show you some of them. Navigation dominates the content. These elements take up space at the top, at the bottom, and at the left of the screen. It's hard to focus on content. You see, probably the essential part is clumped in the corner. Sometimes it's not clear where I am when the folder tree is hidden. And probably the main problem is poor scalability. It's crucial for us because it contradicts our product vision. As the product grows, new challenges arise. What is excellent for a specialized tool doesn't work for a versatile platform. What is good for groups of dozens of users is not suitable for big enterprises. You see on this screen the folder tree gets complicated and overwhelming in large accounts, and the top level tabs row in the header is already overloaded. So how might we update the navigation experience to fix these problems, answer the new challenges, and do not harm people who enjoy the product for years? Sure, we have to move forward very carefully. Fortunately, we have prototyping and validation methods that help a lot. Let's overview these methods. Here are our prototyping methods from the simplest one to the most sophisticated. Rough sketches, high fidelity clickable prototypes, quick and dirty prototypes in code, and finally production quality prototypes. And here are our validation methods. Hallway usability testing, usertesting.com for unmoderated user tests, moderated user tests with our customers, internal testing within our account. And yes, we eat our own dog food. That's very helpful because we have many different types of users within our company. So the internal feedback is very valuable. Private beta testing and public beta. Preparing an update of the navigation experience is an iterative process. On each step, we used some of these prototyping methods combined with some of these validation methods. Step 1. Once we got a shared understanding of the problem, I initiated the navigation update challenge to collect ideas from the product design team. I asked all the designers to prepare and present their visionary concepts. There was no need to work out all the details on that stage. Rough sketches were enough. You see, at this stage, we used the simplest method from our toolkit, rough sketches without any validation. It took 2 weeks. And please take into account that it was a side job for the most of the designers at that time. And as a result, we got 6 different concepts. Then we isolated common ideas from these concepts, mapped them to the problems, and chose the most promising ideas. I was delighted with the results at that stage. However, if I had to do it again, I would run a design sprint. 5 days of focused teamwork would be better than just asking people to prepare their concepts as a side job and waiting for 2 weeks. Step 2. Then we decided to combine the most promising ideas into an integrated clickable prototype. This prototype was intended to be a tool for validating our ideas. At this stage, we used the following validation methods. Comparative tests on usertesting.com and moderated user tests with our customers and internal users. Let's quickly go through the prototype. First, we introduced a clean and simple layout. The navigation elements don't dominate the content anymore. We added nested projects and folders to the list along with tasks. One can navigate downwards by clicking on them. We aimed to leverage the standard pattern used by any file manager, where you see subfolders along with files. Without this improvement, one had to use the folder tree to see nested project and folders. Within the team, we named this improvement Browse View. Also, one moment, sorry. Also, we added breadcrumbs to show a path to the current context from the root of the work graph. Again, we aimed to leverage a well-known pattern to make navigation more intuitive. And we tried to provide a better way to open the description of a task or a project to the full screen. Here we leveraged the same pattern of tabs we used to switch views such as list, table, board, and the Gantt chart. And one of the essential part of this concept was so-called spaces at the top level of navigation. The spaces are an extension of our conceptual model aimed to help our customers organize their project tasks and work tools within large accounts. Let's see how our conceptual model evolved with the spaces. You see that spaces spaces house folders, projects, tasks, and work tools, for example, for specific department or team or program. What did we learn during validation? First of all, sad but true, static clickable prototypes don't work well for testing complex navigation tasks. The amount of evidence we got from these tests was limited by very few fictional scenarios. However, we confirmed that the new layout invokes a positive impression of lightness and intuitiveness. Also, we made sure that standard patterns such as browse view and breadcrumbs work well. Other ideas were not fully adopted. For example, the details tab didn't work much better than our old way to show the project description. Step 3. Despite the limited amount of evidence we got from testing on clickable prototypes, we made sure that we were moving to the right direction. We shared the prototype as well as the results of user testing with the entire product organization, so we sowed seeds of possible solutions in mind. And soon these seeds sprouted. Two of our product teams took different parts of our solution and implemented quick and dirty prototypes in code to validate them within our account. So at this stage, we used more advanced methods from our toolkit. Quick and dirty prototypes in code for prototyping, and internal testing within our account for validation. The first of these teams implemented browse view and breadcrumbs. These improvements were adopted very well. Long story short, in a few months, we released them to the public. However, this initiative wasn't on the main track of updating the navigation experience, so that I want to go deep into it now. The second of these teams created a quick and dirty prototype of the new layout with spaces at the top level of navigation. We call this prototype a navigation revolution. What did we learn during the internal testing of these prototypes? We loved repeat prototyping in code. Sometimes such prototypes require no more effort than creating something really sophisticated in Axure or Framer, but they're much more useful since users can work with real data, with real life scenarios. However, there are some spots on the sun. On the one hand, it's critical to implement such prototypes quickly to keep the cadence of ideation and validation. On the other hand, the rush affects quality, and bad quality may spoil the first impression. Back to specific parts of the prototype, we learned that people didn't recognize spaces by their icons. Tooltips on mouse over didn't help much. And also, we understood that this revolution was too harsh. In classic Wrike, we have so-called applications, dashboards, reports, calendars for clothes at the top level. Every application is a home for work tools of a particular type. In the bright new world, we don't need these applications since any work tool belongs to a specific space. Spaces provide a better way to navigate between work tools, but we were not ready for such massive changes. Users were disappointed trying to find their beloved applications. Step 4. After intense internal testing of the navigation revolution prototype, we considered ourselves ready for the next stage. We updated the design to resolve the main issues and built a new version of this prototype from scratch. This time, we didn't sacrifice quality for quick turnaround. We felt confident enough to make it with production quality from the very beginning. So, unfortunately, work on this prototype took much more time than I wanted, to tell the truth. Our plan at this stage included using a wider range of validation tools. Usertesting.com, internal testing within our account, private beta, public beta. And let's quickly go through the solution. Since we understood that the world wasn't ready yet for the revolution, we placed the so-called applications at the top level, along with spaces. And we made the top level of navigation configurable, so one can choose what applications and spaces to pin there. Other applications and spaces are available through the Show More menu. And since we understood that people could not recognize spaces by their icons, we made the very left navigation panel expanding on mouse over to show names of spaces and applications. What did we learn from testing? We underestimated the importance of color themes. We started comparative tests on usertesting.com with different color themes for the classic Wrike UI and the new navigation. And some of the respondents preferred the classic UI just because they liked the contrast between navigation and the content. So the results of these tests were not relevant. It's a bit funny, but at this stage, we discovered some user scenarios we weren't aware of. For example, some people used drag and drop to drag a folder from the folder tree and drop it to the task view to add this task to this folder. In the new navigation, that isn't always possible because there is no folder tree in the inbox. Also, the folder tree is divided between spaces, so you can't drag a folder from another space. And the expanding left navigation panel annoyed a lot of people. That was a shock for me, a real disaster. Unfortunately, we badly needed to show icon labels somehow, and we had no plan B for this. I bet for this animated solution and lost. And the second navigation panel, the so-called sidebar, was intended to be collapsible. One can show and hide it using the hamburger button at the top left corner of the content area. We believed that this logic would be clear for users since it's quite standard. Moreover, in the classic UI, we used the same hamburger button to show and hide the folder tree. It was a great surprise that our internal users with significant experience with the product sometimes lost this sidebar. They had no ideas on how to show it back when it was hidden. And last but not least, we discovered that users need a kind of home section in the navigation. In this prototype, we have the home space with personal project and tasks. Also, we have the started section. Also, we have the inbox. And all these items pretend to be your home, but none of them work well enough for this role. And based on this new feedback, we made an uneasy decision to suspend the private beta and postpone the public beta. We were not happy with it, but we didn't give up. We believed that every iteration moves us closer to the goal, and we were ready for the next step, step 5. We understood that we had been sticking to the unvalidated decisions for a long time. We were too optimistic when we started the development of this solution with production quality. We needed some fresh air. To discover better solutions, I facilitated a full day working session with 3 designers and 2 product managers. We used a technique called Design Studio. It's described in the book Lean UX by Jeff Gosself, and it's very similar to Design Sprints by Jake Knapp. But a design sprint includes a validation phase, while a design studio session usually ends with some ideas on paper. We worked hard during that session and got 2 bright new ideas. One of them was an evolution of our original approach. Another one was completely different. We decided that both concepts deserved implementation in code to test with users. I'm sorry I won't show these ideas today because it's another big story, and that story hasn't ended yet. Hope we will host yet another meetup, maybe in September, where I'll be able to share with you the final part of this journey. And now I can only add that during further stages of this journey, we used even more tools from our toolkits, such tools as private and public beta. And in conclusion, I want to share my key takeaways. First of all, solve one problem at a time. It is not easy to alter navigation patterns and change users' habits, but changing the conceptual model of the product adds yet another level of complexity. In the ideal world, we introduce space first, help users adopt this idea with the old navigation, then update the navigation. In the real world, these tracks were almost simultaneous. We will manage it somehow, but it would have been easier if we had made changes step by step. And be pessimistic, do not stick to unvalidated decisions. For example, as I said, I understood that icons of spaces in the very left panel need labels. And I hoped that the solution with expanded panel on mouse over would work well. Other designers from my team believed that the expanding panel wasn't a good idea, but they hoped that we could move forward without labels. There were too many hopes and not enough evidence. And last but not least, keep cadence. It's critical to prototype ideas quickly to keep the cadence of ideation, of validation. Otherwise, we stick to our decisions. That's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. Not sure if we have some questions.